Hi everyone, welcome to another quarterly reading wrap-up. I know that it's late, but it's better late than never. I didn't read a lot in the second quarter of the year, but I think it was a decent amount. I got my script. I read a total of 8 books. Yeah, I think for most that is kind of little. For me, this seems normal. But I guess if you count all my manga volumes in, it would be about 36 books. So, whether to say I win or to say that I lose, I'm not too sure, okay? The first book that I read in May would be The Spear That Cuts Through Water by Simon Jimenez. I actually did a vlog for this, several vlogs for this because I took so long to read it. But I gave this a 4.5 stars. What is this about? It follows two main protagonists who is supposed to escort a god to a place in order to save the world from this tyrant king. That is supposedly the point of the book. It was a truly rocky start for me at the beginning of the book because of the writing style that Simon Jimenez chooses to use, which is the fact that he uses first, second, and third person narratives, and they all serve a different purpose, but it can get very jarring because they're not from the same point of views and they're from different people, and you do wonder where you are in the story, and you get a little bit confused with that. But after the 100-page mark, I think it got really much better for me, and I flew through this book in my own speed, and I really enjoyed the themes and the prose for this. Like, he writes really beautifully. I think ultimately the story was just alright, but it really came down to the fact that he had really good themes and the fact that he wrote really well, and I just enjoyed myself and gave this a 4.5 stars. And moving on to the next book that I read, that would be A Life in Parts by Bryan Cranston. I read this on audio with Audible because I'm not, say, the biggest fan of Bryan Cranston, but I really like him. I think he's hilarious. I think he has a really good sense of humor. As you know, he is the actor that acted in Malcolm in the Middle. He's the father, and his most notable work is by far gonna be Breaking Bad. He is Walter White. So that's everyone's favorite character. I did not watch Breaking Bad, but after reading this book, honestly, I felt like I wanted to watch Breaking Bad for the first time. In any case, I gave this book a 3 stars because I felt like it was fun. I felt like it was a fun book, but otherwise it's not entirely very well written, or is it very exciting. I think the best parts of the book was really the fact that he was narrating his actual life. The rest of his life, the initial start, was kinda not interesting, and I don't want to say that about a person's life, but truly it was just not that fun. And the narrative was really choppy, which explains the title of the book, which is that it's a life in parts. And literally, it narrates like a life in parts. The next book I read is Assassin's Quest by Robin Hobb, because I had to finish this book. If you can watch the vlog, I'll put it up above. But as you can see, I'm still going through a crisis with this book. But it took me a whole year to finish this. Like, I put it down for a whole year and did not pick it up. And one day I decided, yeah, you need to go and finish this book, Danielle. You need to do it. And so I did. And of course, why the hell did I put it down in the first place? It was amazing. This is the third book to the Farseer trilogy. The Farseer trilogy follows a young boy named Fitz, who is a bastard son of a crown prince, and he gets brought into the kingdom and has to learn to be their secret assassin. Yeah, that is the gist of the story, and by the third book, we have ramped up on our emotions. It is super intense. It was slow for the first half of the book, but the back half, it made up for everything. And you know what? You need to know going into these books that they're going to be slow. They're going to take some time to for you to feel for the characters, and nothing really happens, as in there's no big wars, there's no major fight scenes per se, and a lot of it is just navigating a boy growing up. And I love Fitz so much, therefore I don't care. And by the end of it, even though I slogged through the first half of the book, I still love this so much, and therefore gave it 4 stars. Makes a lot of sense for me. Moving on to the next book I read is The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu. I read this on audio. I am one of the biggest fans of Marie Lu. When I was younger, now I don't really enjoy YA as much, and so therefore I do not really read her books anymore. But I still consider myself a gigantic fan of her. I'll still support her work. I'll still want people to read her work because she's the author of the Legend trilogy. And the other one, I can't remember what it's called. And I met her. And she also did Warcross, and I met her before in real life and got a signature, and I love her so much. And after hearing a lot about it through Elliot Brooks, who talked about it super much, I decided to pick it up. So I gave this book 2.5 stars. Why? I enjoyed it. Don't take it as a bad thing, because 2.5 stars is still 50% out of 100%, right? I did enjoy it. What is the story about? It's following the Wolfgang siblings, if you know Wolfgang. The Wolfgang siblings, Mozart, you know who's Mozart? Yeah, I know who's Mozart too. But do we know who's his sister? Exactly. So we're following the story of his sister, who's also a really prolific composer, but because of societal shenanigans, she doesn't get to really shine very much. And this is sort of known throughout legitimate history that Nanro is the sister of Mozart, but in their societal situations, she can never pursue the career of a composer because women of the time is meant to be homemakers, to make babies. Yeah, and that's very sad. But Marie Lu adds a little bit of a twist to it, where she adds a little bit of a magic realism factor, where there's this wonderful kingdom of Back, and Nanro goes there and discovers a magical world. And there's a lot about music in here, and I think it's so beautiful. But in the end, it's just mainly about a girl who's struggling in society, a society that doesn't accept her, and a society that doesn't support her. And I mean, not that Mozart. We see a lot about Mozart as well, and he suffers a lot in his own narrative. We see the two siblings suffer against each other as well, and I think it's just beautiful to watch. But ultimately, I think the narration and not the audiobook narration, but like the prose of the book and the flow of the story did feel a little bit lacking. But just following their life story, I thought it was kind of boring. It's just them being at home, composing and performing for kings and queens, and coming home, and then that, and we're just going back and forth with the same narrative, and there's not much of anything else. So I did feel a little bit bored, even if I felt and connected a lot with Nanro's experience as a woman in that time. And ultimately, YA is really not for me. I don't know how to say that, but it's not that it's not good. It's just like, it's not for me anymore. I'm 25, and not saying that at 25 you can't read YA. Obviously, I did, but it's just not the style of writing and the type of themes that I really look for in a book anymore. So that's why 2.5. I don't know why I keep giving YA books a chance when I know that usually my experience is either going to be a 2.5 or 3 stars. But it is Marie Lu, and therefore I gave a chance. The next thing I read is Ninth Frame by Jen Williams, and I gave this a 3.5 stars. You could catch it in a review up above. Yeah, I did a review for this, and what is this about? Let's just talk about it briefly, okay? We are following a group of people who usually hunt monsters, sort of, and they discover, they're trying to discover the reason why their enemies are gone, and what is the things that they have left behind that is making the world not so great, but also at the same time the enemies coming again. Is that okay? I don't know. Just go and watch the review if you're really excited or you're really interested in Ninth Frame. But ultimately, I did enjoy it. It's just that I did find that the story was a little bit lacking. I don't like the characters that much. I think I couldn't really connect to them, and therefore I didn't want to really follow their story very closely. But I was very, very interested in the setting and the world, and I loved it very much, and therefore it kept pushing me forward with the story. I'm someone who really cares about a setting and a world, and if it's intriguing, interesting enough, full of legitimate history, I get sucked in real fast, and I can abandon the characters and I can abandon the boring storyline for just this aspect of the story. So yeah, that's pretty much it. The next thing I finished is Dune by Frank Herbert. 3.5 stars. You can catch another review for this again at the information above. And if you're really interested, what can I say about Dune? I find it very difficult to talk about Dune because I think there's not much of a main story other than the fact that the Atreides family moves into Dune because they're being forced by their ruling king to do so, their ruling emperor. And you know, it's the entire plot to like essentially kill off the Atreides family. And how do they survive and how do they tread this political landscape in order to survive? Yeah, that is the story, and yet that's not really the main point of Dune per se. And I think Frank Herbert just knows how to write a narrative that is full of themes rather than really exploration of an actual plot that moves forward. And so this book is kind of split into 3 parts, and part 2 really suffered because nothing was happening and they were just in the desert and the dunes, and we're just like, God, when is this gonna end? And in the 3rd part, it just ramps up so quickly and just ends right there, and then I'm just left feeling empty, but also like, wow, that was a good part. But then part 2, though, why did we have to go through that? Yeah, I think my thoughts are not very cohesive here, but you can just catch your review above, like I said. Okay, on to the next one. The next thing I read was actually manga. So I read Kitchen Princess by Natsumi Ando, and that was about 10 volumes. Yeah, that was about 10 volumes. And in totality for the series, I gave this 4 stars. You can catch my reading vlog for Kitchen Princess above, so I won't talk too much about it because I talk very in-depthly about those things. But Kitchen Princess essentially follows a girl who dreams of becoming a patissiere because of her dead parents, and she wants to go find the Flan Prince who kind of like saved her emotionally from the death of her parents, and she has to go to the school, but the road is not gonna be smooth, girl. And I think there's a lot of trigger warnings with the series, like, which I will explain in the vlogs. But just to mention here, it would be eating disorder, like suicide ideation, death and grief. I don't know. Those things I think can be quite triggering to some people, and that's exactly what this is. For a supposedly light-hearted looking series, I am surprised that this is so heavy in nature. I forgot how heavy it was in nature, and I read this when I was really young, like 12 or 13 years old. But anyway, I still enjoyed my experience. I think it was really good in its narrative. I really loved our characters. I rooted so hard for the romance and the relationships between all characters. Some parts of it disappointed me, some parts didn't, but ultimately it did serve its purpose in making me very, very, very attached to these characters and the story, and that's why, totality, 4 stars. The next thing I read was actually also manga, which is Zettai Heiwa Daisakusen, and that was about 4 volumes. That is by, hold on, Akane Ogura. Yep. And I gave this about 3 stars. The reason being that it's just entirely too short. It's also in the same vlog as Kitchen Princess. But we follow 2 characters who are being forced. Nah, they're not forced. They are entering arranged marriage set between themselves because they are the prince and the princesses. They are the prince and the princess from 2 different states of countries, and they are fighting each other, and they want the fight to stop, so they form a alliance of marriage. I don't know what were those hand signals, but I hope you got the picture. And it's very cute because clearly they form this alliance themselves and they slowly fall in love with each other, and it's very sweet. But exactly my point, it's only 4 volumes. There's literally not enough time to establish a very strong relationship, even though they are very, very cute. And a lot of things progress behind the scenes other than a relationship, and I thought that was very, very rushed. I wish we had at least 6 volumes, but this is what we got. The next thing I read was The Grace of Kings by Ken Liu, and obviously I gave this a whooping 5 out of 5 stars. You can catch the review above. I don't know if I have edited yet at this point in the video, but I hope that I have. Dude, I love this story so much. I can tell why it's not as popular as it is, but also I don't understand. But story follows two main characters called Mata and Kuni, and as they try to form a rebellion, kind of dethrone the current emperor. But the story is more complicated than that because it's similar to a history book where you're watching the effects of war over the course of time, following multiple characters. You're not just following Kuni and Mata who are the heads of the rebellion, but ultimately you're just seeing from an eagle's point of view the story that is occurring in front of you. And I think it's so good, and all the characters are so great and so flawed, and yet you still root for them. And that's the beauty of Ken Liu's writing. I don't know how he can make me feel so heavily for a character that I can initially despise at the start of the book, and by the end of the book I'm like, yeah, I feel for you. Maybe I like you. I'm not too sure. But yeah, that's exactly my point. And I don't know how he does that. And it's so great. Please go catch my review because I think that would explain my thoughts and feelings a lot better. But ultimately, this is amazing. Even if you don't want to hear my review, even if you don't want to hear anything and any more about this book, just go and pick it up. Okay, just go. The next thing I read is W. Juliet by Emura, which is also a manga. Surprise, surprise. That was about 14 volumes of manga, and that is a longer manga series compared to the initial 2 that I read in the month. And catch my vlog above where I talk a lot more about it and more intensity about it. So if you're interested, go do that. But I gave this a 4.5 stars in totality because it's so great. And what is this story about? It's about this young boy and this young girl who kind of fall in love over the course of this drama club that they're both in. But the twist is the boy is a newly transferred year 2 student and he's dressed up as a girl. Why is he dressed up as a girl? It's because he has to go through this bet with his dad in where he has to act like a girl throughout the course of his high school years in order to fulfill his dream as a actor, because if he doesn't complete this challenge, his dad is just gonna make him the next master of their karate dojo. And our little girl, I mean, she's not so little, she looks like a man, and that's like the plot twisty part of the story, is that one looks like a guy, one looks like a female, and they both fall in love. But I think this series is just so great because it explores so much about family, about entering your first relationships, young love, and like effective communication, and yet also talking about dreams, about chasing after your dreams, that dreams don't come to your doorstep without a fight, that dreams don't come to you without you trying 1001% to try and achieve it. And I think that's so beautiful to see our characters fight through all that, and also to be in a relationship when they shouldn't be in a relationship considering the complicated factors of it. Yeah, and I think that's just so great, and I love this series so much, and I read this when I was younger again, and clearly it still stands up to its glory as I've seen it in my childhood. And in fact, I just appreciate it and love it more now as an adult. So catch my vlog because I feel like I really talk more in depthly about the themes and the plot and our characters a lot more in the series. The final book that I read is The Fellowship of the Ring by J.R.R. Tolkien. Again, I'm so sorry, but I also did a vlog for this. I'm so sorry for repeating myself over and over, but I also did a vlog for this. It will be up in the cards above. But essentially, I wanted to do an experiment regarding Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien's work, and just discover the entirety of Lord of the Rings because I love Middle-earth so goddamn much. And so I did that, and I'm already on 2 towers, and I finished 2 towers already, so that will be another vlog up. But Fellowship of the Ring is so good. I think I finally reached the age where it's appropriate for me to read it, and I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. Of course, 100% loved it. Okay, does it come with flaws? Definitely does, because Tolkien's writing is really, really overly descriptive, and I think most people know this before going to the work nowadays, but back then I did not, and I really suffered from the consequence. And now, after knowing how he writes and experiencing that already and giving up halfway and now entering the story again, it's really appropriate for me to love the story again. And entering it and seeing the way that he describes everything, I become more appreciative of the way that he actually writes. I think it paints such a perfect picture for the reader. I definitely can imagine everything that's going on, and I don't think that is necessarily due to the movies that I've watched, but more so the way that he actually writes. And I think Peter Jackson must love him because the way he writes makes it really easy for Peter Jackson to just, copy and paste into like reality. You know what I mean? Yeah, and I just love our characters so much. I love the Fellowship. I love every single one of them. I love how they interact with each other, how much they care for the journey that is to return the ring to Mordor. And I just think that Frodo, he struggled so much. Actually, from the initial start, he was struggling a lot about receiving the ring, and he was not happy about doing so, but he felt like it was his duty. And in that case, he felt like he needed to do something in order to save himself and to save the rest of humanity. And I thought that kind of bravery, you can't find that right now in life, can you? And I just find that he's so amazing, and that's why I love Frodo so much. But truly, my favorite character is Gollum, who I meet in Two Towers properly. And yeah, actually all of them are my favorite characters. I don't know what I'm talking about. I love that you go and watch the vlog, okay? Just go watch the vlog. The part 2 is coming soon, okay? And with that being said, before I wrap up this quarterly reading wrap up, I have decided that I want to share the music that I've been really enjoying in the quarter. So my sister taught me a really cool way to essentially catalog all the favorite songs, all the songs that I'm very interested in listening to over the course of the year into different like Spotify playlists. If you use Apple Music, use that, YouTube, whatever playlist you have. The point is, I put in songs for every quarter and listen to the playlist only for the quarter. And then so there will be 4 quarters in a year, and I'll put music into all of them. And by the end of the year, I'll have things to look back on because memories are being attached to songs. Let's not deny that. So that is exactly what I did. And for the second quarter, I want to talk about some highlights and some songs that I really, really enjoyed. For you guys, I don't know if any of you are interested, but I love music a lot. So I love when people talk about music so that I can go discover some new artists and some new hits, So I refer to my list because I can't remember per se. There's a lot of songs. The first song that I really, really enjoyed is The Sun Is In Your Eyes by Jacob Collier, because at the start of the month, I traveled to Korea. So at the start of the month, sort of, I traveled to Korea, and I had an excellent time there with my sister. And one of the days, we went to the Hanok village area, and it was so sunny. It was the perfect weather because it was cold and yet really, really sunny. So it kept us warm enough, but actually cool enough as well. And it just reminded me of The Sun Is In Your Eyes by Jacob Collier, and it's just beautiful, beautiful song. I love that so much. And so, to the next song, I really enjoyed My Stupid Heart, but the kids version by Walk Off the Earth. I do not know why. I think it's TikTok again. I don't watch TikTok, okay? I watch YouTube Shorts and Instagram Reels. They're not the same. If you know, they're not the same. Anyway, so that really captured me in May, and I'm not too sure why, but I was so obsessed with the song. And there was a day where I went for a bike ride with my partner, and we were listening to My Stupid Heart and singing along with each other, and I thought that was really a nice memory for the both of us. Yeah. The next song that I really enjoyed is a Chinese Mandarin song, and it's 刻在我心底的名字 by Crowd Lu. And dude, I don't know why I instantly fell in love with this, but also from Reels, I watched a different singer, Eric Zhou. You guys know Eric Zhou? He sang this in his concert. And I was like, what is this new Eric Zhou song? How come I don't know about this? And so I go onto Spotify and look for it and realize it's not by him, it's by this guy called Crowd Liu. And this guy is excellent. I listened to this song and it's just like chef's kiss perfect, and I just couldn't stop listening to it. No memory behind this, just entirely a perfect Chinese Mandarin song for you to belt out like a ballad in pain. It's about heartbreak. But what is it not about? Chinese Mandarin songs, you guys have to know, are always about heartbreak. So they're good for belting out in times when you go through a breakup. Okay? Yeah. The next song that I really, really enjoyed was during the start of June. and that's actually Erase Me by Lizzie McAlpine. And why? Because Jacob Collier was part of that song. I'm a big JC fan. I don't know how else to express it other than the fact that I love JC. But yes, he's amazing. He's a genius composer, and Lizzie McAlpine really sang really well in this. And I don't know why, but no memory is attached to this. I just thought it was amazing. It's just such a good song. Yeah, no reason behind it. Just go listen to it. And finally, at the end of June, the next song that I loved, and the very last song that I really enjoyed is Annihilate by Metro Boomin. Is there really a need to explain, you guys? In the vlog, I talked about how I watched Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and Annihilate was one of the songs inside. I mean, there's another song that I really like, but Annihilate was more of the, there's killy vibes, and yeah, I really like that, and I couldn't stop listening to that because I love Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I want to encourage all of you to go and watch it now because it ends at a cliffhanger, and I heard the second part is being pushed back. Do what you will. If you feel like more and more people are talking about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse and you feel like watching, go watch it. But just so you know, this a really cliffhangery ending, and then you just be upset because when I was watching this 2.5 hour movie, I didn't even know that it was 2.5 hours, aka almost 3 hours, and just sat there watching oh, how are we gonna resolve all of this? And it just ends. My disappointment, my friends, my disappointment, you would never understand. In any case, I have bored you enough, and we have reached the end of the quarterly reading wrap up for books and for music. And I hope you enjoyed this video. And if you read any of these books, let me know in the comments down below, or tell me what was one of your favorite books in the second quarter of the year. And in any case, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!